it's come out now that Hillary Clinton's campaign, in their scramble, because Donald Trump is closing in on them on the polls. He's now taken the lead in Florida in major polls. He's taken the lead in Ohio in major polls. He's closing in Pennsylvania, which is a very important state. It's come out that Hillary Clinton's campaign, in their next pivot, they love pivoting. They pivoted from, her as the progressive who gets things done during the primary. Now she pivoted over to that, pragmatist who Republicans, scared of Donald Trump should vote for. She was courting every Republican donor, every Republican neocon under the sun. Even from reports, she'd be okay with Henry Kissinger's endorsement. Now they want to pivot to try to get millennial voters who might be going towards third parties to come back over to her. I'm going to read from this New York Times story and give you my real-time take. I was tweeting about it this morning. It's unbelievable, the arrogance and the stupidity of this campaign. Hillary Clinton and her Democratic allies, unnerved by the tightening presidential race, are making a major push to dissuade disaffected voters from backing third-party candidates and pouring more energy into Rust Belt states, where Donald Trump is gaining ground. With Mrs. Clinton enduring one of the rockiest stretches of her second bid for the presidency, her campaign and affiliated Democratic groups are shifting their focus to those voters, many of them millennials, who recoil at Mr. Trump, her Republican opponent, but now favor the Libertarian nominee Gary Johnson or the Green Party candidate Jill Stein. While still optimistic that the race will turn decisively back in Mrs. Clinton's favor after the debates, leading Democrats have been alarmed by the drift of young voters towards the third-party candidates. You know what? I try not to do the whole "I told you so" business because it's not about me and I don't want to do victory laps, but I told you so. All these people 3 or 4 months ago that were tweeting at me, "You're nuts, Jordan. These millennial voters, yeah, they're pissed off now about Bernie and the DNC and yada yada yada, but once the election's closer, once the reality of Donald Trump as president, they're all going to fall in line for Hillary Clinton." There were polls coming out showing 90% of Bernie Sanders supporters now supported Hillary Clinton. I tweeted, I did videos on, that is nonsense. And that's not just anecdotal evidence that I have spoken with thousands of Bernie Sanders supporters, many, many, many of them young people and millennials, but there was no way, while emotions were so raw, that 90% of Bernie Sanders supporters, furious with the DNC, furious with the corruption, furious with the rigged election, were then moving over to Hillary Clinton. So now, let me read you a statistic. A new Quinnipiac poll. More voters aged 18 to 34, millennial voters, 18 to 34, see Trump as honest than Hillary Clinton. Trump is at 27% honest, Hillary Clinton at 21% honest. 49% of non-whites see HRC as dishonest. Let that sink in. Trump, 27% honest, which is abysmal in its own right among millennials. Hillary Clinton, 21% honest among millennials. Gee, Jordan, you're nuts. Millennials, yeah, they don't need to love Hillary Clinton, but they're going to be so scared shitless of Donald Trump. Stop the fear-mongering. Stop the nonsense, I was told. Well, hate to say I told you so, but told you so. It's incredible to me that one of the reasons Barack Obama did so well is he wasn't surrounded by old school Democratic operatives. He had some new school blood like David Plouffe, who kind of could read the country a little better. Hillary Clinton's campaign, they're wired on traditional politics, and they are so out of touch with the actual mood of the Democratic base. The Democratic base is, I would say, is evenly split between Democrats who are old school, older Americans that are, fall in line ideological voters who will vote for Hillary Clinton because they just vote Democrat. But it's almost evenly split between populist outrage progressivism. That is the Democratic base right now. They talked about the Republican Civil War throughout the primary. There was a bigger Democratic Civil War going on, and it's still going on. So for Hillary Clinton's campaign, I'm going to read this to you again. While still optimistic that the race will turn decisively back in Miss Clinton's favor after the debates, leading Democrats have been alarmed by the drift of young voters towards the third party candidates. Well, if you're alarmed, you weren't paying attention. I remember when I was out at the DNC and they were having their coronation for her inside, and the Cory Bookers of the world were quoting Maya Angelou and all this, toasting of champagne with the high dollar donors up in the high seats. Meanwhile, young millennials were outside in the streets protesting, angry as hell. They didn't listen. They are out of touch, and now they're surprised. Leading Democrats have been alarmed by the drift of young voters towards third-party candidates. Again, I hate to say I told you so, but what did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? You just think young people, let them kick and scream now, but in 3 months they'll come back. They'll go get their ball and they'll come back. Hey, if you lose, part of it's on you. A big part of it's on you. Bad candidate, but also bad advice and bad strategy. I'll read a little bit more. The principal super PAC supporting Mrs. Clinton's candidacy, Priorities USA Action, has concluded from its polling and other research that the reluctance to embrace the Democratic nominee among those who intensely dislike Mr. Trump is not going away and must be confronted. We'll be launching a multi-million-dollar digital campaign that talks about what's at stake and how a vote for third-party candidate is a vote for Donald Trump, who is against everything these voters stand for, said Justin Borowski, a strategist for Priorities USA. Yeah, throw more money at it. Just hit the airwaves, hit online. You'll win over those millennials who, even though they detest Donald Trump, they're not going to vote for you. It's too late. It's too late, Hillary Clinton, and it's too late, corporate Democrats. The problem is, I think these corporate Democrats looked at millennials more as young, kicking and screaming kids than very wise and informed voters. I could tell you from experience being around the country, I found young Bernie Sanders supporters to be smarter than older Hillary Clinton and Trump supporters. Not even close, by a lot. And again, I want to state, I understand a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters were older and are older, and not all senior citizens or middle-aged people are for Hillary Clinton. But for the purposes of this current discussion, we're talking about millennials. Millennial voters knew the issues better. They knew Hillary Clinton's record and her past flip-flopping better than Hillary Clinton's supporters knew. And let's not even get into Donald Trump supporters. I might write a book about that. So the bottom line is the Democratic establishment, Hillary Clinton's campaign, has misread the situation. I said, the Young Turks said, after Bernie Sanders was officially out, she should pick Elizabeth Warren. She should pick a progressive vice president. The way you're going to win this election is by uniting the left with your more center. If she pivots to the right, good night, nurse. It's going to be very close. I thought most of the time that if she picked someone like Tim Kaine, that was it. I think it was going to be extremely close with a highly probable chance Trump can win. Well, she picked Tim Kaine. She courted neocons. They've doled out. They've literally done campaign ads showing the Charles Krauthammers of the world, the Bill Kristols of the world, bashing Trump and supporting Hillary Clinton. They're proud of this. The people who led us into the Iraq War and have never been against a war, never seen a war they don't love or drool over. So the bottom line is they made a strategic mistake. Tim Kaine is not helping them. And the bottom line is you reap what you sow. So now they want to go after Bernie Sanders millennials and millennial voters. Well, young people can sniff out bullshit. Young people can sniff out people that are not genuine, people that are trying to get their vote now, but once elected will not do anything for them. Hillary Clinton is for, don't let her tell you she's not, she's for the TPP trade deal. You know what the TPP trade deal is going to do? Ship more of our jobs overseas, hurt young people who are buried in student loan debt from then getting a job out of school because the jobs are continuing to go offshore thanks to deals like the TPP that she called the gold standard. So at the end of the day, the Democratic Party, now in their scramble since Hillary Clinton's health scare, her comments about half of Trump supporters being racist and deplorable, all these things, she is pretty much cratering in the polls. The new national poll shows them tied, if you include Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. All this is happening, and now their strategy, oh God, we got to go back and get those young people. We'll get them, no problem. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I'm a fairly young person. I'm turning 30 in a few days. I'm a millennial, technically. Um, and I got to tell you, my fellow millennials, most of the millennials I know, they're interested in Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. They're not voting for Hillary Clinton, and they're not buying into the nonsense about, you know, America will cease to exist and be a mushroom cloud if you elect Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump's awful. I'm not voting for him. I think Hillary Clinton is pretty poor herself. I always tell you, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. It's your decision. But I will say this new strategy by Hillary Clinton's campaign, after condescending for a year to young people, after then abandoning them to try to get moderates and Republicans, to now try to rush back to millennials, too little, too late.